This regular session of Mayor and City Council meeting at 6:04 Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017, here at City Hall Complex Council Chambers. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Commander, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May you please remain standing for the invocation. I don't see, we don't see the minister, so why don't we just take a moment of respect to our Creator, a moment of silence, and everybody can say their own blessing. Amen. In Jesus' name. Thank you. You may be seated. Let's see. We have a call to the public from Mr. Manuel Bonoran. Would you come to the podium and state your name and address, please?
My name is Manuel Bonoran. I live at 892 Calle Alabastro, Rio Rico. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the council this time. I'm here to ask Mayor and Council to revisit Order 2016-09-055, which took away health insurance benefits for many City of Nogales retirees. These benefits were part of an exchange between the city and its employees. The exchange was in writing and ratified by the mayor and council. These agreements occurred prior to the persons retiring. The retirees made good on their end of the deal, and the city made good on its end of the deal for 33 years. Then, in spite of 2 years of assurances by this administration that at these meetings, or as quoted in the international, assurances that current retiree benefits would not change. Then last September, without a single word of discussion, these benefits were voided. In a matter of seconds, call to the order, number, the vote, and pound of the gavel. It was done. This blanket voiding of previous orders pertaining to retiree benefits ultimately meant that effective November 1st of last year, retirees for the first time would have to pay for their health insurance benefits. Since this was pushed through with no discussion and contrary to previous statements, the public has been unaware of the impact of this action on the retirees and unaware of any justification for doing it in the first place. The deliberate and underhanded way that the order was presented and passed was to keep the public in the dark. What was the impact? There's 60 retirees over 65 years old surviving on a fixed income, a pension based on their salaries in 1990, that now have to devote a portion of their pension to pay for health insurance. Something the city reneged on after 33 years. All that I'm asking is that each of this new council, and I recognize there's new and old members, study the document, and I have the document which I can pass out. And look at your own city documents, ask questions of city staff, but don't necessarily believe them, and make a determination, a moral judgment, a decision to put this issue back on the agenda, either to explain the rationale behind leaving everything the way it is now, or voting to restore these promised benefits, to discuss all aspects in public as the people of Nogales deserve. In other words, to do what you guys were elected to do. I'm also perplexed by the fact, and I'd like you guys to find out, why for the last 6 months some retirees are still receiving all promised benefits while the bulk of the retirees are not. Explain to the public the fairness in that, and explain how that is legal. A mistake has been made. We all make mistakes. I have spoken with members who voted to pass this new order after it was passed in last September and October. Some are lame duck, they're no longer here. Some are still here. They were genuinely surprised that there is money coming out of retirement pension checks to pay for insurance. They didn't think that was part of the bargain. And that's what I mean about trusting city staff. Your neighbors are hurting financially, and they are your neighbors. Up here it says somewhere, we are all neighbors. They're hurting financially, and the city put them there. Every month, receiving a diminished pension check makes it worse for them. They're elderly, many of them are not in good health, and they can't just go out and get a part-time job to make ends meet. There seems to be a lack of courage to deal with this. My email to each and every one of you went virtually unanswered. I got one reply. It was your opportunity to explain things to me, and it was your opportunity as new members to ask me questions. None of that happened, except for one. The consensus of Nogalians that I talk to all the time tell me that the city could care less than I'm beating my head against the wall. Sometimes I agree with them, but don't let that be your legacy. This council, the new and the old members, can prove them wrong, prove me wrong, return the government to the people. That can be your guys' legacy. Restore the promised benefits to your neighbor, the one that picked up your garbage, kept your parks clean, made sure you had tap water, and fixed the streets and the sewers and whatever. They devoted a career to the city and believed that the city would keep their word. So far, they are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wanahan. Apparently, it's something that we'll take into account. And so thank you for coming and giving that opinion. And
Mayor, I didn't realize that I was and your brother were on the council that voted for this until right now that I looked at the dates.
that's a while back.
Yeah.
Do you remember the promises you made? Okay, thank you for bringing that. We're going to go ahead and at this moment deviate from executive session because we have an important presentation of that, and also the time on the people that are going to make this presentation is very valuable. So we're going to go ahead and go directly to item 6A, presentation for FY 2016 audit. Mr. Dennis, would you just go?
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for actually moving me up on the agenda. Obviously, I've got a long ride home back to Phoenix. So we performed the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2016. Those reports were issued at the end of February. So hopefully you've all had an opportunity to take a look through those reports that are there. So I'm just going to briefly talk about what those reports are. The first one is the communication to governance. And really what that is that basically outlines what our responsibilities were as part of the audit as well as management's. And also talks about some of the significant audit adjustments that we had during the audit, any difficulties we had during the audit, and any delays related to the audit. That's just kind of in summary what that letter really discloses, mainly just to give you background on the audit itself. There was a delay related to the audit. Part of that was for the housing authority. the Housing Authority reports on a different fiscal year than the city, and their financial statements get included. For the pension liability, the city implemented that back in June 30, 2015. But because of the fiscal year end of the Housing Authority, they did not have to implement that until their March 31st, 2016 year. So you'll see reflected in this year's audit that the pension liability attributed to the Housing Authority is included in the financial statements this year, appropriately. But there was some delay in that there had to be a recalculation of that. As we were doing the audit, we noticed that there had to be a recalculation related to that. So there was a delay related to that. The other reports that you have is the Highway User Revenue Report. That's an examination that we do. And we look at the use of highway user revenue funds. Arizona Revised Statutes dictates how those funds should be used and what they should be used for. And so we look at a sample of payroll and accounts payable disbursements to look for compliance with Arizona state law. And we had no findings related to the Highway User Revenue Report. The other report that you'll see is the Annual Expenditure Limitation Report. And that is a report that's put out. The state of Arizona has an expenditure limitation amount. Some cities have a voter-approved amount, which the city of Nogales has, and some cities have what's called the economic estimates, mission estimates for that. So the city has a voter-approved amount. We issued a clean opinion on that. The city did not exceed their expenditure limitation amount, and it was reported in accordance with the Uniform Expenditure Reporting System. Also included in the packet that you have is obviously the annual financial statements, which we provide an opinion on, is the single audit report, and then we also issued a management letter as well. So let me talk a little bit about the single audit report first. So the single audit report, what that is we have two reports that are included in there. The first is the Government Auditing Standards Report. We don't provide an opinion in that report, but we do report on internal controls. So we'll report any type of deficiencies, whether they're material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we identified, and we'll report on those. The second report, we do give an opinion. We give an opinion on compliance with your federal programs. And so certain programs that meet the criteria to be considered a federal program are those programs that we audit. And so just to let you know, the programs that we looked at were the capitalization grants for drinking water state revolving funds, and the other one was the Homeland Security Grant. We issued a clean opinion on both of those programs, so we didn't find any type of material misstatements related to compliance for either of those programs. We did have one significant deficiency that we reported, and it was for overcharging overtime related to a grant. It wasn't a significant dollar amount. It was for the individual was $96. We projected it was about $1,000 that was charged to that grant that overtime was incorrectly calculated. So not significant, but something that obviously we have to report related to compliance. Within the Government Auditing Standards Report, the report we don't give an opinion on, but we report on internal controls, we did have some deficiencies that we reported. We had a material weakness related to some material audit adjustments that we did. We also had one that was related to capital assets, as far as there were some adjustments that were necessary in order to correct depreciation expense and the capitalization of some of those capital assets. And then the other one related to cash receipts. For the cash receipts, we had, out of our sample of 25, there's about 24 items where the supervisor did not document their review or recount of the cash receipt, the daily cash receipts. We did have one significant deficiency, which was related to credit cards. And what we found is that overall, that the procedures over credit cards that the city has in place are good. But as far as management level, not that we had any misuse of credit cards, but our recommendation is that at a management level, that the credit card statements of management level employees should be reviewed by somebody at a higher level. So for example, it might actually be someone designated by council that might review those, rather than somebody that's maybe at a lower level reviewing those credit cards. Because not saying that this happened, but it could happen that somebody might be a little bit apprehensive about bringing about questions about what's being charged to a credit card if they're at a lower level and they're questioning what somebody at a higher level might have charged. So as I mentioned, nothing that we found that there was any erroneous use of the credit cards, just a recommendation to improve internal controls over that.
Can I ask a question there?
Absolutely.
So if we decided to go along those lines, would they also review somebody in the council, the same council members, or we get somebody from? But there is no credit card used in the council,
Right. So
so we don't have to worry about that.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't. If you had
Just
somebody.
wanted to see if there nothing came up.
Yeah, if you had somebody on council that had credit cards, yeah, the suggestion obviously would be that another council member would review the use of those, as well as it would still go through the normal process. So it would still be looked at through the finance department. But the big thing is really you create an opportunity or a situation where you're putting maybe somebody that's at a lower level, in a position where
Right.
they don't want to question.
Right. Okay, we'll take that in consideration.
As far as my understanding, there's only 3 credit cards. How many credit cards do you show?
I don't have that in front of me right now.
Unless somebody can tell me differently, but as far as I know, it's the city manager has a credit card, the city clerk has a credit card, and the purchasing agent has a credit card. And that's it. There's 3 cards.
Yep.
No councilman has a credit card. No city attorney has a credit card. None of the employees have, except for those 3.
Right. So this was specifically to the city manager. As far as our recommendation is that somebody maybe designated on council should be reviewing the city manager's credit card.
Or the 3 cards, right? All 3.
Yeah. If there's nobody that's at a higher level other than council, that would be our recommendation. Yes.
Yeah. But check and see. As far as I know, it's only 3 cards.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but yeah.
But I think Jeanette, am I right?
Yes, you are,
Yeah.
Councilman.
Are you done, Councilman?
Yes.
Councilman Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But the higher person would be the city manager for those 2 other credit cards. Then one of us would just check just the city manager. That's all.
And that would make sense.
However they like to set it up. we can-
Yep.
we can-
So we're not getting involved with the persons below. On your corrected misstatements here,
Yes.
you put here an adjustment in the amount of $322,000 was proposed and subsequently recorded to adjust the forgivable portion of a loan as grant revenue in the waterfront.
Yes.
What's the forgivable portion?
So the city receives, I believe it's a WIFA loan, right? Yeah. So they receive funds from the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, and so the WIFA has segregated that into 2 pieces. One is what they call a forgivable loan, which in essence is really a grant. And then the other piece of it is a true loan where the city does need to repay that money. And so what happened is that the forgivable portion, which is really essentially grant money because they call it a forgivable loan, but it's really a grant, was recorded as a liability as if that needed to be repaid. And so we had to make an adjustment to recognize that as revenue rather than a liability.
Thank you for that correction. I appreciate that.
And the $452,000 that were recognized as unrecorded transfer that was approved and to eliminate a deficit fund balance?
Yes. So I believe it was the Capital Projects Fund was carrying a deficit fund balance. The Capital Projects Fund is largely funded by the bond monies. So when the bond monies were originally recorded on the financial statements, and these are bond monies that go back a number of years that are still being spent by the city. And so when the bonds were originally issued, they were recorded in the general ledger based on how the initial plan was for how the bonds were going to be spent. Well, over the years, as projects were completed or new projects came online, the funding changed. And so what happened is that, for example, in maybe like your water fund, the bond monies might be all in your water fund because that was how it was originally sold. And now the use of those funds still allowable, but the allocation has changed to where it's benefiting more your governmental funds. So it might be benefiting more of like your streets or infrastructure that's not related to your enterprise funds. And so a transfer had to be recorded from the enterprise fund over to the capital projects fund because essentially there are no monies in the capital projects funds for those projects. It's the bond money, and the bond money was sitting in the water fund that had to be moved.
And the rest of these corrections that you surface here, they're normal corrections?
Yeah, I would say nothing out of the ordinary. I know that some of these look like larger dollar amounts. I think that some of these related to capital assets, and then some of them related to. I'm just looking here real quickly. I think there was a settlement, and the city did record the settlement, but they recorded it in the fiscal year 16-17 when the settlement was actually finalized. But under generally accepted accounting principles, because it related to an ongoing litigation from prior years, because that was a known fact, it should have been accrued back. So that's another adjustment that we made, was to move it to the right fiscal year.
Everything else was in order.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman Barona. Are there any other questions? See? Oh, okay.
And then I did want to mention, before I go into talking about the financial statements, we did issue a management letter. So that, it may or may not be in your packet, but I thought I would mention it. These are items that we didn't feel it was significant enough to bring to council's attention. But these were some recommendations that we made to management just to improve internal controls. And one of those just being related to capital assets. The city has a written policy as far as what type of useful life should be provided to a capital asset. We recommend, and that policy is followed strictly. But we recommend that, for example, that the city evaluate the assets on an ongoing basis and adjust the useful life based on what the true useful life of those assets would be. So just as an example, and I don't know if these are the exact numbers, but the policy might say that we're going to give an 8-year useful life to a vehicle. If the city purchases a vehicle and they know that it's going to be used for maybe 15 years, then they should probably be using 15 years rather than 8 years for depreciation. So it's not a significant matter, but it was just more of a recommendation that we made to management to, the policy's there, but really it shouldn't be strictly adhered to if they know that asset's going to have a more or less useful life than what's on that policy. And then the other one just relates to document retention. We just noted that documents were being shredded before their really retention date was up. And so the recommendation was that they should make sure that all documentation is kept within the retention period. So, and again, it didn't cause us
Is that in what
complication.
department now?
I'm sorry?
What department was they?
This actually had to do, specifically this was in the revenue department as far as cash receipts that were shredded before the retention date was up. It didn't cause us a scope limitation because we were able to look at the documents when we came out to do preliminary work. And I don't remember what we were doing, but we ran across and found that those documents had already been shredded. So we had already tested the documents. We didn't find any issues or control deficiencies, but they were shredded before the retention period was up.
And they put something in place already to adhere to that?
Okay, so the last thing I just wanted to go over, so the annual financial report is obviously the bigger document, and our purpose in doing that is to render an opinion on the financial statements that they're in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And so in performing our audit, we do our audit on a risk-based approach, and what that means is that in our planning phase of the audit, in discussions with the city, with members of council, as well as just information that comes to our attention, the significant areas of the audit, we assess a risk to it as far as whether there's a higher risk that something could be misstated and other areas might have a lower risk. This isn't bad or good. Every city has high risk areas and every city has low risk areas. Usually revenue and cash receipts are going to be a higher risk area. For larger cities, we tend to see that capital assets tend to be a higher risk area. And what that means is that we design our test work to do more test work in those higher risk areas because those are the areas where a misstatement based on our assessment could occur. Now this doesn't mean that we don't look at the other areas, even areas that are low risk. We still do audit procedures, but we design our procedures to go more in depth in those areas that we assess as higher risk. So on the financial statements, just a couple of things that I wanted to point out. You'll note on here that your largest liabilities for the city are your pension liabilities as well as your other post-employment benefit liability. And I'm going to touch on the other post-employment benefit as well, because that's going to change in the near future, the reporting for it. But your pension liability, I think it's about $30 million of that liability is related to your public safety retirement. So that's your police and fire retirement. And then I think there's another 11 million that's the Arizona State Retirement System. So that's accounting for almost 37 or almost $40 million of that total liability that's recorded on the books. The OPEB liability, the other post-employment benefits, which is the retiree health benefits that are received. Right now they're reporting about a $19 million liability. But the important thing to note about that is that $19 million liability is not the full liability. Under current standards, the liability is accrued as an employee has its service. So you might have, so it's done by an actuary, but the liability increases over time as you have employees work longer for the city and as they come up on retirement. Next year, meaning the fiscal year ended 2018, GASB 75 is going to change that reporting. And so the full liability will be reported on the financial statements in your fiscal year ended June 30, 2018. And so it will actually be the actuarial accrued liability and not the net pension obligation. The net pension obligation is always less than your actuarial accrued liability. And I know the first gentleman that was here had talked about the change, and there was a change that the city had implemented in the benefits, which did result in a change in your actuarial accrued liability. So prior to that change, your actuarial accrued liability was $42 million, and after that change, it's about $20 million. So, it's about a $22 million decrease as far as what that future liability is to the city. Based on the change in the benefits that are out there. So what that means is that when GASB 75 is implemented, rather than recording a $42 million liability on your books, it's going to be more like a $20 million liability. So, but those account for a majority, so between the pension liability and the other post-employment benefits, that accounts for a majority of the debt that the city has, as well as obviously your bonded debt that you have as well. So those were the things that I really wanted to touch on. If there's specific questions related to any of the reports I talked about or the financial statements themselves, I'm more than happy to address those.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman Lucero.
Thank you. Carlos, are we going to be looking at running another actuarial study coming up, or?
Mr. Chairman, Councilman Lucero, yes, I think it's required. Is it every 2 years?
Every 2.
So we'll be looking at conducting that again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, Councilman Barra.
Thank you, Mayor. I find it on your budgetary highlights, something that I wanted to highlight here that I didn't realize. It's nice to know that when you break it down the percentage, the pie of public safety for us is 36% of the expenditures. And it's good to see where we're looking at the expenditures there. But under the budgetary highlights, that last paragraph there has a good reflection on the conservative views of the city manager, where it says that general fund revenues of 20.2 million were 0.6 million less than the budget for fiscal year 2016. Expenditures were 3.7 million less than the budget, and 2.7 million of 3.7 million budget savings. So I like your conservative approach that's highlighted in these highlights. And the pie chart is very good if you can incorporate that as we're working, because it's just nice to know where the money is going.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Councilman Barra.
and also comment, those numbers actually for pension for public safety for this coming fiscal year are going to increase to 40. So that alone is about a $500,000 increase. So it's going up because of the unfunded position of the pension plan.
This report does highlight under governmental activities there. They mentioned that there was the decrease there on that, but I'm trying to capture the overall highlights of what you're saying, and it's a conservative. Very good, especially as I'm seeing the revenue, the sales tax and everything. I'm glad your approach is a conservative approach.
And one thing I just want to point out, and I'm not saying that council needs to do anything at all, but I do want to just point out the difference between the Arizona State Retirement System pension liability and the public safety retirement. The public safety is your retirement plan. So this is the liability that's in there, and the assets that are held to pay that liability are the city's assets and liabilities. So the city actually has the ability to be able to pay more into that to reduce that liability, versus the Arizona State Retirement System is a cost-sharing plan. What that means is that all of the governments in Arizona are pooled. And so your proportion of that liability is exactly that. It's based on a percentage. And so the liability is allocated to the city based on your percentage of contributions. So what that means is that if you contributed more than your required contribution to Arizona State Retirement System, it would essentially do nothing to your liability because it's a pool. Versus the public safety, because it is your money and your assets are held separately, if you contributed more to that plan, it would reduce your liability. So, like I said, I'm not saying that you should be contributing more. I just wanted so that you guys, all the council members here understood the difference between the two plans. Because I've also had some cities that had concerns about that liability number being so large and wants to make additional contributions. And, I tell them, don't do anything with state retirement because it doesn't matter what you do, because that's just an allocation. Versus public safety, if you chose to, that would actually make a dent, if that makes sense.
But, Mr. Mayor and Council, I think to clarify, yes, it is our plan. Yes, we can increase the contributions, but we have no control over the benefits. That is all controlled by the legislature. So if those funds are healthy, the legislature has been more apt to increase benefits, and we're back in the same mess that we're in right now.
A bigger mess.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Nodding back.
Any other questions or comments?
No, it's just that what they have 4 highlights here for us to consider that for budget preparations for 2016, 2017 that was influenced by the following factors, and maybe you could highlight those 4 factors as you go through the budget development. That's all that I have.
Thank you.
Well, before I go, I just want to thank Jeanette and the finance team for all of their help. Obviously, we couldn't get this done timely, and I also want to say that the city has come a long way over the last 10, 15 years. There was a time, I don't know if any of you were on council at the time, but there was a time when we actually issued qualified opinions because the city did not maintain capital asset records. And so we've been issuing clean opinions now for the past several years. So, I wanted to mention that and say, that the city is definitely on the right track and doing well.
I think Councilman.
Basically, I was just going to ask you your opinion on.
Okay.
You just answered it. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, does this end the report?
It does, yep.
Okay, well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
so much for-
Appreciate it.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jeanette.
I guess while we're on presentations, we have the presentation to mayor and council and the public, year-to-date projects and activities of the Nogales Parks and Recreation Department by Mr. Vaquilier.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you again for the opportunity to brag a little bit about the Parks and Recreation Department. So this is kind of a brief overview of some of the elements of my presentation. I don't really think bragging is a correct word. I don't want to sound boastful or that it's boasting, but I do want to point out the good things that are happening in Parks and Recreation, some of the positive things. We as a department are far from perfect. However, we do enjoy the things that we do, and there are some exciting things happening that have happened in Parks and Recreation, and I've chosen just to highlight those things, not necessarily the struggles that we have. We all have them, but we deal with those as time comes by. Okay. I have a total of 15 employees in Parks and Recreation, 5 in the Recreation Department, 10 on the Parks Division side of things. And personally, I'm fortunate to probably work for, I believe, one of the best crews here at the city. In my almost 16 years here at the city, I've seen a million different faces here on the dais. I've seen a lot of employees come and go. And I can honestly tell you, contrary to some public opinion, that there are a lot of good employees here at the City of Nogales, and they're here to serve the community. They're here to serve the council. And I'm fortunate to know a good majority of those employees, and I'm happy to work with them on a daily basis. We are responsible for close to nearly 30 different types of outdoor facilities: parks, ballparks, tennis courts, 2 swimming pools, racquetball courts, skate park. So, and quite a few number of streetscapes as well. About a year ago, this time of year, we completed a Challenger Field construction project. This project, we worked in partnership with the school district. It had been a long time coming. We've been talking about this with the school district for numerous years, and it wasn't until Vice Mayor Lucero was elected to the school board that this was possible. Councilman Varona had opportunities, but he failed to want us to work with the city. You're welcome,
I'm at
Councilman.
home with him all the time.
Do you? Anyway, I think this is this is an example of a solid working relationship that we can have with other governmental entities, and in my opinion, we do have a great working relationship with the school district. This project was completed on time, and I believe it was slightly under budget. Okay, this facility has helped us tremendously as far as spreading out the demand of the use of our facilities. We still have the same number of users, but we're not so congested anymore, and we're able to kind of use that to kind of thin things out a little bit.
We haven't had a ribbon cutting ceremony on this one
I hear the mayor's office is in the planning stages of doing so.
yet. Okay. Yeah.
And I did speak with the school district, and they're more than happy to be part of that ceremony.
Okay, and now, will the city give it some kind of name, like City Park number 2, or Soccer Field number 2, or, I know that the property belongs to the school district, but can the city give it while it's under the city direction and maintenance, can the city give it a name so they'll know, whether it's Monte Carlo Park Soccer Field or something like that?
I don't want to give an opinion, Mayor, but I think that'd have to be taken up with Superintendent Pana.
Okay, all right, we'll talk about that. Just to make it easier for the city to know what field we're talking, for the public to know, because it kind of have some kind of name, at least, so it gives a sense of direction.
Mr. Bachelier has a name right there.
Challenger Field.
Yeah, well, there you go, Challenger.
That's what we reference, that
Now,
facility.
can you put City of Nogales Challenger Field? because they're the ones that have to pay for the whole thing?
Well, you know,
Or is that too possessive?
well, I think that the city manager and superintendent Vara should discuss it and then bring it back to their respective boards to make sure that school policy is adhered to.
No, the reason that I say is because we did put quite an investment in there, and in all due respect, sometimes I think people, the public sees that field over there, and they probably think that the school did the whole thing. You know, and in all fairness, you know, we could make it some kind of, it's all right if people know that it's a joint agreement that you know, both parties are able to come up with a solution. That's, you know, it's important that,
Sure.
that credit is given where it's due.
And it's similar to the Wade Carpenter swimming pool, which many don't realize belongs to the city of Nogales. It's on school property, but it does belong to the city of Nogales.
It's good to know, thank you.
Our summer programs are a huge hit every summer. I think we do an extremely awesome job about providing programs to the community. People come from Rio Rico, Patagonia, across the border to participate in our programs. And with a budget of $63,000 and hiring 53 additional staff, I think that's money well spent. That budget will increase this year because of the mandate to increase the minimum wage to $10 per hour. So that's probably going to increase another $16,000 going into next fiscal year. There's two things that go on that I think that I need to highlight regarding the programs that we offer. One is the actual programming for the kids. Obviously, it's a no-brainer to look at swim instruction. It's probably one of our most popular classes. We probably conduct more than 300 or so. We have more than 300 participants in that just swim instruction for kids 4 years of age up to 12 that we do every summer. I can only imagine how many drownings we have prevented or other type of water accidents just as a result of that program. In addition, it gives kids an opportunity to try maybe something new that they've never done before in their life. Most of the programs that we offer are lifetime activity type programs. So hopefully we can capture some of these kids and they'll take an interest in an activity, and this is something that they can continue to do from here on out. The other aspect of this program is you see that the staff that we hire, most of them are under the age of 18. And in many cases, this is their first opportunity for employment. The process that they have to go through, I think, is real life experience. They have to apply for a job like you would at any other place. Fill out an application. They go through interviews. We ask them to dress up. They take it very seriously. So we put them through kind of real life scenario as we try to select the best kids for these programs. So I think it's a great opportunity for kids, and I can tell you that this job is probably one of the only jobs that the kids will ever have before they actually apply for a real job out of school. And this is probably the only experience they'll ever have. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for what we are able to offer the kids from this community. The Western Regionals, this will be the fourth year now that we will conduct the Western Regionals. These are pictures of when we redid Fletcher Park and converted it from a skin infield to an infield with turf on it. I highlight this only because it's really easy to construct a facility, but to maintain it up to that certain level, year after year after year, that it's still impressive, it's still safe, it still looks good. And the committee that selects where this Western Regional will be held continues to remain impressed. I believe we're good until, 3 years, Councilman?
Yes, sir.
And potentially maybe 5 more. And, what a way to be able to showcase Nogales. I think that every team, every state that has participated in this tournament, I can say that they probably leave with a totally different view of what the media has painted Nogales to be. And we hear nothing but very, very positive comments about this. And we're excited about it, and we're happy to kind of take this on for another 3 to 5 years. This slide, along with the previous 2, I believe, shows a commitment from the City Council to Parks and Recreation. I know that we have essential services that, as a city, we need to provide, water, sewer, fire, PD. I think this is an example of our City Council investing money in Parks and Recreation to serve the community and to really showcase Nogales. So we all know that 70% of healthcare costs are spent on diseases and illnesses that are preventable. And I think the more we can push for recreation and activity, I think the more we can potentially maybe get ahead of that curve. I think we got a long way to go. Society, in my opinion, is really suffering, and we're kind of at a losing battle right now. But I think as long as we can promote activity and there's commitment to Parks and Recreation, I think that we're trying to do the best that we possibly can. So here's my pitch to the school district. I hope we continue to have PE classes, recess, intramurals, athletics. I know sometimes those are the first programs that get cut, but I think in the long run we're going to pay a lot more for them than what you pay them. What do you think at this point in time?
Don't be cutting PE.
That's what I'm trying to protect your job, Councilman.
No, good job.
Do you guys know who that kid is right there?
No.
My
Matthew.
nephew.
What's up? Yeah, it is confirmed for 3 more years.
After this year?
This year, 2 more years, and they'll be incremented in 3 years. But the tournament is due to Nogales, and unless the city doesn't want it, it's ours. There's been no complaints. Everybody that's come down has been very, very, very ecstatic how the city accepts them, the restaurants, the hotels, the community, everybody accepts them. At the games, the police officers, the firemen, everybody salutes these kids like, they're from here. I had an incident last year where one of the kids playing around at the hotel got hurt, needed 4 stitches. Took him to the hospital, and the hospital people, Miss Sanchez opened it up like if we were our own kitchen and threw us in, and they attended the kid and first class, treatment and everything, and they just do, as far as the whole city in general, community, restaurants and everybody. Safeway has donated stuff just from the carts. After you see the families come by over and over, take the stuff. But the city has done a big job on it. Thank you.
Under those things, it's gotten so close with some of these teams that I've seen them hang out with the local kids on the street when they're not playing, walking around, and a lot of them have gone across the border, of course, with their parents and chaperones and whatnot, but, they feel right at home on both sides. I don't know if it's the the pep talk that I've given him in the past and given him all the get out of jail cards just to give him confidence. But I had talked to Mayor Galino in case if anybody had any problems with it, he could help us out. And he said he would do anything within reason, depending the situation. But at least he would make him feel at home. And you know, with that confidence, they've been able to go across the border and have a good time and come back, and nobody's ever gotten in any trouble that I've known of. But the most important thing is that you see them hanging out here in our hall, in our towns, feeling right at home with our kids. Like if they've known each other for quite a while. That's, you know, it's amazing what sports does for those kids, and especially when they feel the love of the community supporting them. So I want to thank Councilman Maldonado for all the great work he does there directly with our, you know, work, I guess, called the World Series Western Regional.
Western Regional.
Thank you.
And I would agree, I would concur. I think this brings out the best that Nogales has to offer, these types of events. Moving on to my next slide here. So these are some of the improvements that we've had over the past year. We installed a remote light control link to the lighting system at War Memorial Stadium. So what that allows us is we can control lights from a phone, from a computer, manually if we so desire. And then we can also track usage for particular groups, exact wattage and so forth and so on. Prior to this improvement, we had to manually turn the lights on and off. It wasn't unusual that users of the facility would leave early. The lights would stay on for an additional, hour and a half. So now they can at least call us and just say, hey, you know what, we're going to finish early. We can call in and get the lights shut off. Okay. Likewise, with any rainouts or any type of thing like that, we can, just call somebody or online, just cancel the light reservation. We added a multi-lift chair to the swimming pool at the recreation center. We painted the inside of the gymnasium. We had electrical upgrades to Flesher Park concession stand. That was in response to the Western Regionals. We just didn't have enough power supply there. So we've upgraded that to its full capacity. So at this point in time, there's not much we can do other than to bring in an additional service if we wanted to add additional power to that concession stand area. I know that there's something we ran into problems last year that we were actually overloading the system. I can't remember what it was the cause, but we diminished something.
That's to do with the electric house.
Yes. So.
But didn't they do an upgrade or separate one? Somebody put in a new relay?
Yeah. So we had to separate everything out. So. The Little League field restroom construction project that will go out to bid next week already. So we don't anticipate longer than a maximum of 60 days once we issue that bid for the new restrooms at the Little League, and that's courtesy of the Tohono O'odham grant money that we talked about earlier. That's what will be the funds will be used for that.
As you're talking about that, the vice chairman was here last year. We invited him to come and enjoy the Western Regionals, and he was I think he was rooting for the Hawaii team, and they won. And at the end of the game, he was all happy, and we gave him a parade, and he was all excited because I guess he knew a few. We're gonna make friends with some of the players, members of that team. So he was out there jumping up and down, excited, like almost like a kid. So then when we were going to go on the parade, I said, "Would you like to be the marshal of the parade?" And George drove us, and I sat in the back, and it was a pickup.
You got my son's pickup?
And and the Meisterman sat in front, and he was all excited, getting into really, and it was great because, you know, it gives, that's what it does. It showcases our community. People come and they enjoy, they have a good time. That set up a relationship with George and Tohono, where now he's helping them and you're helping him, and so that's what it's all about. I mean, people come to our community, feel our hospitality, and you know, we're always willing to receive them with outstretched arms. And this is great. This is great for us. I think it's been a great investment, you know, that the city has put and for the Western Regionals, and it's paying off in the sense that we're actually selling our brand, our image, going out as a surprising, really friendly community that they don't get, they don't receive it in other places. The hospitality they get here. So, you know, I think that, you know, these commitments that we've made with supporting our kids pay up in so many different ways, including making them, you know, future leading citizens. So, you know, thank you all for all the support you've given to that.
We're in the process of some concession stand upgrades at Little League right now in order to comply with some health department concerns. It looks like we'll be installing at least the sinks probably here within the next couple of weeks, as soon as we can coordinate schedules with Little League. And whenever it is the sinks actually arrive, we've just ordered them. So that should be coming soon. I know Flesher Park concession stand is a concern for a number of council members, and I know that we need to deal with some of the same issues that the health department has pointed out. I know we're looking at funding options, whether it's Hono grant again or potential discussions during the budget process here to kind of as a funding source, but that one's on our radar as well. The very last point there is, ever since I've been here, I've been wanting to be able to at least discuss an option for the school district and the city of Nogales to sit down at the table and look at our facility use calendars. I really believe that as much as I'm a proponent of facilities and more fields, all of our facilities, for the exception of our new ones, you know, they're aging and they need a lot of money. I would love for that money to go so that we can upgrade the facilities and just, you know, keep them where they need to be. But I think there's enough facilities within the school district and with the city of Nogales that if we sat down and actually looked at the calendar and see when, you know, when they're busy, we can actually close fields, oversee them, do the maintenance on them that they need, open others, and actually the facilities aren't getting the heck beat out of them. My first attempt was with Mr. Kelly Cooper. Councilman Barona was a facilities man, assistant, and I've just never been able to be able to get before them so that we can at least talk. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I would just like that opportunity to be able to at least look at that and see if it works. I know there would be some issues with access and everything else, but I think it's worth an effort to try and get that done.
I think we can help you.
You think?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
And one exciting piece of news we had related to War Memorial Stadium this week was that, as you all know, that we have an intergovernmental agreement with the school district. The baseball team utilizes his facility as their home stadium. They just came up with the region selections for players, and unbeknownst to me, they actually pick a field of the year. Anyway, War Memorial Stadium was picked field of the year this year. So anyway, I think that's
Great accomplishments.
Yeah.
it was unbeknownst to me. And anyway, I think that's credit to our staff. Once again, you'll see in one of the next slides how much use we actually get, even though we get criticized for the way we schedule our facilities, but one of these slides will be an eye-opener. I don't know if some of you remember this mural. I think Councilman Lucero had just come on board 2 years ago, and we were painting the outside of the gymnasium at the time, and the issue came up, well, do we just paint over the mural because you can't see it? And it's kind of a sensitive situation because the actual artist who came up with the mural, during one of our summer programs, they painted this. That artist has since passed away, so obviously the family didn't want us just to paint over the mural. They wanted to keep it. I wanted to have kids involved, or a kid involved in the restoration of the mural. We did have some quotes for just some artists to come in and do it, but I wanted to keep it within the same type of I guess perspective that the artist had when he did this. So anyway, so I had this young lady from Nogales High School. She's in the IB program, Sarah Fonke. She approached me, and as part of her extended project, they have their senior project, but then if you're an IB student, you have an extended project, I guess, on top of that. Anyway, right?
It's independent.
Different.
That's their senior project. The
Okay.
extended project is their senior project.
So she approached me and she said, hey, can I do this? And I said, do you think you can do it? She said, yes. So anyway, long story short, here it is. She kind of added a little twist of her own to it. But anyway, I think the wall looks nice now. If you drive by there, it really kind of pops. Anyway, so we were able to get that done without too much problem. And I think it'll be short for a couple more years. So.
I just, I can't help but to think again about going back at it. This really looks good because I saw when it was all faded, and
Yeah.
it's really amazing. And again, it comes from the recreation department and the efforts of the whole community. But I can't help think back to these Western regionals, how vital they are to us. That we see at this level. From here, they go to the World Series, and sometimes I've seen on TV where kids from famous major league players are playing out there, NFL players, people that have money, that are in sports, that investing in their kids, and then when they lose against their opponent in the World Series, you see those kids crying, and you wonder, how much time and hours and money was spent on it. And yet Nogales, right away when we got into the Western Regionals, as a matter of fact, I think one of your grandsons was playing on that team, and not only won the Western Regionals, but went to the World Series and won the whole enchilada. They won the World Series, and these are kids that, they just love the sport. They play together. Of course, they have great instruction here locally because we've always been a baseball team. But when I think here are these other kids that are also got pros behind them, all the money in the world, the support, and something about Nogales put that drive in those kids to bring home the World Series, and that's a credit to all the work you guys do with all the kids and from Little League on, I guess we call it T-ball, from T-ball on. But this is great for the city to be a part of all this. It's great for our community to shine like that. And it wasn't that long ago, and I bring it up because, we tend to forget sometimes. Kids grow and look at the next badge, but we need to do something to put something more memorable for what the kids accomplished. And I'm gonna leave it between, since your grandson was there and George is involved, I'm gonna leave it between you two, Councilman, the figures, what we can put out there working with Mr. Bachiller. Commemorate that great event.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
That's great, awesome.
So as I mentioned earlier at the very beginning, I believe that, that I'll put my staff up against anybody. And, we want to make a difference not only in the community, but also within the city itself, amongst all the departments and our employees. So we get involved. Mr. Oropesa, who you see there with his back to you, he's actually the committee chairman for the City Safety Committee. He's very enthusiastic about it. He takes it very seriously. It makes me happy that that he wanted to take on that responsibility and that role. Yours truly, I'm the EBT chairman. I also serve on the Wellness Committee. Any special event, especially if it's the city's event, or if anybody is requesting any kind of city support, that request has to come through me. So I stay involved that way, and I kind of help facilitate a lot of those efforts. I also assist with the Employee Health and Wellness Fair. I think there's a wonderful opportunity every year that we hold this fair for our employees. It gives them great exposure to the healthcare professionals that maybe they may not have otherwise. We have an employee appreciation luncheon, which I also help, and I'm on that committee. And then we have monthly staff safety and training meetings. That's Mr. Oropesa is doing. We take employee safety very seriously. We're trying to lead by example as far as that's concerned. So we try to stay involved, and we kind of, like I said, try to set the example, and obviously it'll all benefit everybody else. This was the slide that I referenced earlier. We constantly get criticized that we don't use the facilities enough, or that we close them. And I'm just gonna, and this is over a 15-month period of time. For Memorial Park, for instance, over that 15-month period, Memorial Park we had actually scheduled reservations to use that facility 252 times. The standard rest time, as far as the National Parks and Recreation Association is concerned, is for every hour that you use a facility, you should rest at 10 hours. Okay. If you look at that, and we counted an event as 1 to 2.5 hours. Okay. So if we had 258 events at Memorial Park, we should actually be resting at 268 days. If we were to do that, we'd probably get, tarred and feathered. It's crazy. So I just bring this to people's attention because, I think we do the best we can to allow people to use our facilities, but at some point you have to say, yeah, enough is enough, because then we start running into risks and liability issues. Look at Ron Turley. Ron Turley, during that 15-month period of time, had 433 events scheduled, which I think is crazy.
Will this new field take a load off that?
All it has done is we're still using it the same number of days, but we have less people on it. So it has helped. I mean, it's not as crowded as it was. But if we were to apply that same standard, we would have to rest on Burley Field 451 days. It's not going to happen. But I just bring this slide up to your attention just because, when you receive a call from a constituent that we closed a field, understand that we probably didn't close it enough. We closed Memorial Park for 6 weeks, Ron Turley for 2 months, Little League 6 weeks. So, and we're still able to, put forth a product, if you will, that I think is very respectable and safe, and people will love to come down and play in Nogales because of the conditions of our fields. that's the end of my presentation. You guys, if there's any questions?
George,
Marcel, no, I think you guys do a great job with the fields, and one thing, basically the main understanding of the maintenance, and I've been involved with Little League and you guys for the last 14 years since I came back, but the fields needs their rest, their water, otherwise we wouldn't have what we have, and we got questions, when we participated in the Veteranos open ceremony about wanting more games, stuff like that, but you can't abuse them. You can't abuse them, and in order to have what we have, I think you guys do a great job
Thank you.
selecting it. Thank you.
yes, Councilman Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Marcel. I want to congratulate you on an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
It was very thorough. It shows all the great things that you're doing for the community, but also points out the need for more fields and more opportunities for the citizens in our community to enjoy. And you sort of identified there's a lot of things that we can cost share and work towards to the benefit of all. And I during the budget process, it would be nice if we could actually start looking at a Parks and Recreation master plan, start looking at some long-term issues and figure out ways to address the needs in a better and more cost-effective way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Sarah. Councilman Rubin?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Marcel, I want to publicly thank you for lending the field to Lincoln Elementary. During the time of the Junior Olympics, Lincoln is pretty short on fields, as a matter of fact. And I came to Marcel and I asked him, again, Memorial Park is a great park and a great facility. You kept it impeccable. You guys do a great job, but I did ask Marcel, and to tell you the truth, I thought you were going to say no. But I asked him for the field, and he was very cooperative and good spirit, talking about working with the schools. I really appreciated you saying yes and blocking that field for, I believe it was 3 practices. And on behalf of Dr. Lucina Romero, I would like to thank you for lending us that field. Thank you, Marcel.
You're welcome.
I see Councilman Diaz at the hand first. Go ahead, Councilman Diaz.
Marcel, thank you very much. You've done an excellent job, and it always helps to have kids playing together, the regionals. I mean, it's phenomenal. You've done a great job. One question. Do you think in the future, do you think artificial turf would be feasible to use at a field? Or try one field with artificial turf? Besides it being too expensive?
So let's take the money issue out of the question.
Okay.
There's still an argument whether it's cost effective or not. Because after 7 years, you're going to have to replace it anyway. So you're going to go spend $1 million on a facility. Yeah, you maybe not have to water, but you still have to water artificial turf fields to cool them off. Yeah, you're not restricted to use, but after 7 years, you're going to probably have to rip that up and start from scratch again. So there's that argument.
But that could be used constantly, right?
Well, that's the thing. You can use it.
Rest.
You can use it the whole time, but once again, 7 years down the road, probably you're going to be ripping that up and looking at a brand new facility. So
My other question would be, is it harder on kids, say, through falls or whatever? Do they get twisted up more on artificial than regular tests?
it does require maintenance. There's this misnomer that you just put it out there and it's good to go. It's got its own equipment that you have to use all the time. You have to keep adding chrome rubber. Otherwise, it gets very hard. It gets extremely hot during the summertime. That's why you have to wet it. And then, as far as controlling stuff that you can bring onto the field, that would be a major challenge as well, like gum, candy, those kinds of things would just be not good for that surface. So there's good and bad about it.
I know Nogales, Sonora has, I don't know if it's one field or two fields with artificial turf. So maybe we can maybe go look at it and see what kind of problems they've had and
Sure.
see the cost. I understand all they have to do is vacuum it,
As,
but I really don't know.
as far as I know, what I've seen is the soccer field and the mini soccer right there at the Unidad. They use the artificial turf. From what I've seen, placed at some point, besides having to, they have like a roller that they go over it to, keep the bumps and lumps from here and there. They also have to spray like sand, silver sand that they put on it just to keep it from making the holes and all that.
Well, maybe we'll
I'll
look a little more
get
into
you some
it.
information. I've got lots of information on both sides of the argument.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing that up. Are you done, Councilman?
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Barona.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Douglas High School football field has that national truth on it, too. I've asked them
Okay.
what they have. Marcel, is there any chance on the Western Avenue Park of putting a canopy there? Because in the summertime, parents always complain.
Western Avenue Park.
What's that one by the Circle K?
There's canopies. There's a couple of Ramadas
No,
there.
not the Ramadas. Over where the kids play.
Oh,
The young
okay.
kids playing in the summer, it's really hot there. My wife complains about it. all the time.
Okay.
She takes the grandkids, and she says it's really hot there, and they're gonna take them again this summer, and they like that park.
Okay.
And I don't think it'll get done by this summer, but right over where the playground equipment is at, if
Okay.
you put a canopy there.
Sure.
That would be nice, because there's a lot of moms that do it. And here again, a Memorial Park, compliments. I was at the game yesterday with Cobb High School. They're out of the Santan Valley, and I was listening to the parents as they were walking out, and they just had extremely positive comments about that field. Just wonderful work that Mr. Oropesa leads over there.
Absolutely.
Really
Yeah.
nice field, considering its age and everything. It's just absolutely well kept up.
Well, just imagine that slide I showed you and the number of events that have gone on there since February, and it's still that great a condition.
And the high school that's going to be here on Friday that high school is part of the Phoenix Union, which is the biggest high school district in the state of Arizona. And they're going to be down here. And they don't play in a park like this for high school games unless they go to one of the major league ballparks there to play.
Correct.
But good job. Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Barona. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Thanks so much for that presentation. It was really,
Thank you very much.
really informative. God bless you.
Thank you.
I think going right along, we're going to knock this page off and then we'll go to executive session. So we'll go with item number 7 on discussion items. Number 8, discussion and possible action on the city's chip seal paving program. And Councilman Lucero and Councilman Barona.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've had several discussions on the chip seal program, and I just would like to get an update from staff on where we're at with it and the direction it's going.
Mr. Mayor, I've asked Alejandro to give you all a presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. The chip seal program that we have scheduled, as you may remember, we have an agreement with the county to work together to share equipment and to participate in this program and train our own workers and all those things. We run into some coordination problems with the county they have their own program and they have their own priorities. So we're not really the top priority for them, but for us, we found that the materials that we need to buy, the oil for the cheap seed program, we have to schedule those way in advance because the demand is so high, and there's only 2 suppliers in this area here from Phoenix down. And when we tried to schedule the oil for the cheap seal, we found that we're in the lowest part of the priority for them because the volume that we buy is so small that compared with the contractors that they buy tons and tons of oil, we don't get the priority. So we have scheduled starting the program on the 12th this month, but the county is going to start a program on the 15th in their program. So they were afraid that we were going to delay the program, so we're going to have to postpone our process. In the meantime, what we have been doing is trying to see what alternatives do we have for a program. We have been searching for maybe buying used equipment that we can get our own program and we don't have to depend on the schedule of somebody else. And we haven't been able to find something that's that I feel comfortable recommending buy because the range in price goes from $65,000 to $165,000. So, and most of the equipment that we find is mostly back east in Ohio and places like that, Montana, and we are buying a used piece of equipment without really seeing the condition, and it's a big investment. And I really would like to have more confidence that we're getting the right equipment for the money that's going to be invested. So that's where we are right now. As another alternative, we went about a month ago to visit a program that the city of Mesa is having. It's a kind of a chip seal on what they call microsurfacing. It's a piece of equipment, it's a truck that provides the same kind of maintenance system that we have for the chip seal. Mesa has that program going on for the last 6-7 years, and we went and observed the program that they have, and we made contact with the suppliers and the equipment vendors that they have there. We're in negotiations with them to rent the equipment, test it here, and we're sending them information. They're going to prepare that, and hopefully that would give us an alternative to the chip seal program that we have here. One really nice thing about that is a system that they can do 2 miles and half a day.
And this new system, 2 miles?
2 miles and half a day. Yeah, the system is a truck that's self-contained. They have the chips, the little piece of sand, the oil, and the spreader in a single truck. And they start moving with that. They design that, and it's laying down the materials, and a couple hours later you can open the road. So, and they're moving maybe half a mile per hour, something like that, laying down the materials, and it's really fast and really easy on the traffic control, because as soon as you lay that down, you can open that to the traffic again in a short time. That's another alternative that we're looking at this because we saw the problems that were coming with the chip seal program and sharing the equipment. The cost it's a little bit more expensive, but again, it's something that we can schedule in advance, and it's self-contained, and we got to be dealing with buying the oil in one place and getting the equipment in another place. That's where we are right now. We're hoping to have a quote for the rental of those equipments by next week, so we can come back and present that to you and start moving along with that. Really would like to keep moving with this. Again, I've been kind of frustrated that we depend on so many variables that the oil is not available, we're not in the top priority, the county has their own program, and we have to depend on them to power the equipment. So that's where we are, and I feel a little bit frustrated that we haven't been able to move as fast as I expressed that to you before, but we're making everything possible to move ahead with the project.
I guess, Councilman Lucero, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Carlos, I believe the concept of the chip sealing program was intended to I guess, maximize our tax dollars and get more roads covered to show the community that we're actually doing something with our streets to improve them versus the old method of total reconstruction. But right now, at least what I'm hearing, we don't have a plan per se, and what I would like is if this fiscal year is almost over, and for us to get something in place now is going to be, I suspect, catch-up. I'd rather see a well-vetted plan brought forward, identifying the method that we're going to utilize, the costs associated with it, and identify the streets that we're actually going to pave, because right now, what I'm hearing is nothing is going to happen, at least in the immediate future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Lucero, but, you know, I got to admit, what you're saying right now is astounding. You're talking about that if we get this truck, we can take care of the whole city by the end of summer. And that's not forcing it. Because you forced it in a month. You're talking about 2 miles in half a day. That's 4 miles a day. That's 20 miles a week. We only have 80 miles or so in the city to maintain. So we could do the whole town this summer by getting that truck.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the issue is that's the production that the truck has once it's...
Why are we depending on the county? Let's do it on our own. We don't need the county. That's what happens every time we get involved with the county. We lose time. We spin wheels. We don't get anything done. The city can do it. I believe we have the money.
We're working on that, Mr. Mayor.
This is the most important thing we have to offer our community, is getting the city streets maintained. And you're telling us that we can do it, the whole city. And when we were working with the county, we were talking about years working together with them to get our city. And now you're saying we can get it done this summer by getting that equipment? Where you tell me how much is it worth for the city to give our community this year all the streets maintained? That's where you got to look at. Don't be thinking about $500,000 that we're going to save if we work with the county or something that's going to take years, that we're going to have to go through rough streets. No. We need to spend $500,000 more. Let's get it done. And we don't need anybody else to help us, and we'll have the equipment for ours, and we can continue to maintain, and we can continue to build the streets in Nogales, because that's one of the most important issues for our community. Street. The other thing is parks and recreation, and then we're going with that's what we're going to bring economic development to our community when we start maintaining our streets, and we're not going to be landlocked the way we are. Anyway, thank you very much. I had no idea. I'm not jumping at you, Mr. Bárcenas. I had no idea we could do so much with a piece of equipment like this. Why are we looking at old equipment? Why are we trying to, get together with other entities that are just holding us back? No, I think we have a thank you for the, I guess if anybody else has any questions, thank you so much for that information. Yes, go ahead.
I have a comment on this to follow up, but it's pretty darn disappointing. After a year, that you come before the mayor and the council and are looking at this. Are you kidding me? After a year, we're looking at the oil situation? Wouldn't that have been like the first month that this venture was brought before the mayor and the council about the chip sealing, about the 20 miles that we could do, the coordination, the scheduling with the county? After all this time, we're running into the problem of scheduling. And then the other thing, we're looking whether buying or renting an equipment after a year. We're talking about a year. We're not talking about initially starting this. Then the other thing is looking at other programs across the state. At this point, after a year, we're looking at the cost. I mean, so basically for a year, nothing happened. Nothing happened. We were just spinning our wheels, man.
Can I explain that a little bit?
Well, there's really nothing that can be explained at this point, Alex. I mean, I'm just saying, it's not like we're starting this concept of the roads. We talked about this before, and nothing happened. I mean, it didn't come in I mean, why do we have to tell you that we want a monthly report, a weekly report, a quarterly report? Can't you guys think about that and come before us instead of coming before a year? I mean, do you really expect us to be happy about this? And I'll tell you what, there are other areas where we're spinning our wheels. And especially to come before and get everybody excited that, you know, we could have probably looked at a truck a year ago. I'm just voicing my disappointment. Because, man, are we going to spin our wheels for another year?
If I may.
Yes, you may, Alex.
Yes, we started the program and we did a couple miles of chip seal with the county on the old section of town on the International Street and Dunbar and that area.
I remember, I recall that.
And we did that as a test.
Sure.
That we were going to be able to work on that
And
system.
that you could do a better job.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes, and we did. And the problem was that was the winter time where we couldn't do
Right.
the process.
Mhm.
Then we had to schedule that with the county. The county has their own program. They did sections of miles and Ruby Road and that area. We had to wait for that. On the oil side, we have been looking at that, and again, it's not. We have the same problem with asphalt when we buy asphalt. That we
Alex, can I interrupt here, if I may? Let's just not use the county as a scapegoat. Because see, I know, but that's what it seems to me. You see what I'm saying? I mean, along the line, let's say you with Carlos, with whomever, as you're going through the process, can any one of you say, you know what? We're not moving forward on this. Let's go before the mayor and the council and say, you know what? It's not going to work with the county. Let's go on our own. Can't anybody make that decision, that determination along the process? That's what I'm saying.
I agree with you, Mr.
In all fairness, I think we need to make the decision tonight to give you the direction and the support, meaning we have the money to now, because they've opened a new door. We don't need the county. You've just opened a new door. And I think I know that I understand the councilman's, and you know, I would be just as frustrated as he is if you want to come up with this concept. But then again, I understand him saying, why didn't he bring this to us before? But you know, I understand that you've told me also about the how the climate or the winter months affect and those problems that did come up. But that's okay, that's water under the bridge. Right now, we just need more information to get that, to give you and your department the direction that we need the city to go. I think that's where we're at, Councilman Rojas.
That would be correct, ma'am.
But go ahead and
If
if you have
I
anything
can,
else
I
to
can
add, go ahead.
add a little bit of this thing. I just want to be really clear that this process that I'm recommending is not the magic solution to all the streets that we have. We have streets that, regardless of what we do, we need to replace them. We have streets that really are in so bad shape that we cannot use that process that we have. This is a process that we could use in some of the streets to try to save them for a few more years, not that we're going to solve all the problems. I don't want to mislead you in believing that by bringing this piece of equipment, the whole city is going to be in perfect condition.
But Alex, at this point, we haven't solved anything. That's our frustration. That we've been sitting here, some of us, for 2 years, and we haven't seen anything. That's our frustration. As elected officials, and I understand your frustrations, but as elected officials, we haven't seen anything.
Mr. Rojas, in the past, as you may remember, we have paved streets that use all the money that we have available in the city because it's total replacement. We are trying to change that to spread the money that we have available to have a bigger impact into the city. I agree, and I really believe it's not a whole year.
Well, those are the things, Alex, that during the budget time, you know, everybody's really quiet during the budget time. Nobody says a darn thing, like if everything's going so well. Everything's moving along so really good along the budget. But these kinds of things don't come up. You know, whatever you guys are working on as far as your department, that's fine. And you're going to get our support. But that's the way you need to address the budget. It wasn't addressed last time, or am I wrong? Were these things addressed in the last budget? I don't think so.
Mr. Rojas, as you may know, the budget that we work with is HERF money. Is the money that we receive for street improvements. And that money has been around $700 to $1 million a year. From that money, and I don't know if you remember my little presentation that I had 2-3 months ago on the street that were paved with that money. And of course, there's not enough. There's not enough work to show you that we're doing hits on the needs of the city. But on the other side of the coin, we have to live with what we have. And we pave the main streets, Western Avenue, Morley Avenue, Walnut, all those streets, and every one of those streets costs $1 million or more. So what we're trying to do now, and your frustration is exactly like my frustration. I want to show you that we're doing more with the money that we have available. The transition to the traditional, we're going to design a street, we're going to pave it, and it's all we're going to do the whole year, in my opinion, doesn't reflect well in anybody, especially in us as a staff, and you as elected officials. You need to put pressure on us to do more. But again, with the budget and the resources that we have, one thing that we have gone through, and I'm not complaining and I'm not making excuses. Our street department used to have 22 people. We have 9. That's what we have. And we have to work with that because that's the budget that we have. And again, it's not an excuse. We need to do better, and I recognize that. We need to do better, especially, and just explaining to you that we haven't been sitting there doing nothing. We have been searching all over the place to see what alternatives do we have to improve our process for maintaining our streets. And again, you know, you just approved last year, well, at the beginning of last year, this year, industrial park, $2 million just to that street. And that street was done in a month. That was really in need. That street took us months and months of maintenance just to go and fill the holes in the middle of the street with our crews. And we knew, matter of fact, we researched ideas even to remove the asphalt that was there and put a grader there on a daily basis, 2 or 3 times a week, to maintain the road until you approve the money to fix that completely. Now it's in place, but it's one street in the city. And I think we need to do better. And I recognize that that we need to search for better ways to do this. And I recognize your frustration.
I'm going to go right with you, Councilman Cetto, but you know, that street is very important. We can't belittle it because that helps our local development of our economy. People come in, that was one of the areas that they would see, and it looked like a war-torn area. But now, you know, the city can be proud to say that we've got a good street and in a very important area of our city.
I agree.
And I think it's going to help us. It's going to bring more people into our community. It's going to it speaks well of us. And we need to keep that area maintained. Not only there, the neighboring areas, but you know, I know you guys are working unlimited, but we need to know, as a council, we need to know also. We need to know what are the hang-ups, what are the shortcomings, you know, how can we help? How can we give you redirection? And that's what we're doing tonight. You know, it's not what we're coming down and use, but we feel frustration that we've been now for a time wanting to see more, and we need you to keep us informed to see how we can work together to accomplish this. Councilman Cetto, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to echo your comments and those of Councilman Rojas, we would like to be able to work with staff to see better things happen in the community. And I guess I'm not as boisterous as loud, but it's frustrating for me that had it not been for the request for an update, we still would not have seen anything happen. And that's very frustrating for me that it has to get to this point. Again, Mayor, I think, you know, looking at different ways to address the streets. The chip sealing concept was new when we were trying it out. It didn't, at least doesn't appear that it's going to pan out. We may find some other way to get it done or some other piece of equipment. I'm just hesitant to throw all our eggs into one basket until we've tried it and see how successful it is. And again, I would like to request that the manager get together with Public Works and come back to us with the plan on how they're going to move forward, whether it's a combination of different pieces of equipment or programs or whatever. But I would like to see a plan with the costs associated with some sort of schedule so everyone in the community knows what's going to happen and when and the costs associated with it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Diaz.
Mayor, if I may, I see Mr. Harvey in our audience back here, and I know he's got a lot of equipment and a lot of expertise dealing with paving and stuff like that. Maybe we can reach out to him and maybe he can give us a hand because he's here local and he's got the equipment and everything. So maybe we could reach out to Mr. Harvey and maybe he can offer us some choices, some solutions to this problem.
Have you worked with Mr. Harvey before?
Yeah, we have worked with him before. And
Is there anything you'd like to say, Mr. Harvey?
Well, not a bunch, but I'm sure glad it came up that this micro sealing is maintenance. And you're talking two different deals here, and you got to understand that maintenance and repair. Maintenance and repair. Maintenance is taking care of streets that are good. Nogales has a lot of streets that are no good. All you're doing by putting micro seal on is throwing away your money. the work that you did, I know for sure at Walnut, because I did that project, that was a project. When you talk about repairing a road, that's a scab on a sore. The gas leaks, the water leaks, I mean, it was a nightmare. People weren't happy with us because we didn't get done in the length of time that we said that we would get done, the length of time that we had to do it. But you talk about opening up a can of worms. We went as far as making soil, cement treated base, because there were certain areas where you would drive a loader in and it would just sink down. There was no support at all for paving. And I think you spend your money there much better than you do putting the paint job. So I gotta stand behind them on that. That job, we got cut off. I don't know what happened. I worked with Juan on that job, but we went in there with, you know, a lot of the right attitude, you know, making it right, taking care of business, and towards the end, well, we don't have time, we can't do this, we gotta hurry up. And you know, I think that's dead wrong. I think when you spend your money, you need to spend it for something that when you're done, you've got it, it lasts. And I think that Walnut Street will be proof of it. You see that. You need to take care of it. Asphalt is a pavement that will pay you back if you take care of it.
So this is for the maintenance.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Like he did come up and say, and I was going to ask to be heard and tell you that. I didn't want him to chop his nose off. That micro seal isn't a miracle worker. It doesn't fix potholes. It doesn't repair cracks that are 3 and 4 inches wide. It doesn't repair shoulders that are broken. All that is a maintenance. That's to take care of what you have so that you get the return on your money. So you got to understand that before you jump out and buy a truck and oil tanks, and you know, I know all about that equipment. I studied it. I considered purchasing it, and you need to use it to pay for it. So your money isn't to go out there and do a paint job. You've got real issues. There's streets I drive on with my trucks, and they just break all apart. Oh, Harvey, your trucks are breaking up our roads. Well, the roads should handle the trucks. We follow the weight restrictions by the state. We have trucks, single unit trucks. I'm sure you see them. They look like caterpillars. They got 7 axles under them. They got another axle, you know, that comes down in the back to spread out the load. It's you know, all according to oil. But the road breaks up. Well, there's a water leak. There's a water leak. So you're going to go in there, take out that asphalt, patch it back, pave it. I drove my trucks over it. What happens? The road breaks. Harvey, we're not going to let you drive your trucks on that road anymore because you break up the road. Okay, what are you going to do about your garbage trucks? No service? People are going to have to use their pickups to haul their garbage to the dump. They're not going to have garbage service anymore. The roads should be built and maintained to be used. That's where your money needs to go. So, you know, to keep you people happy and go out there and make them black, that doesn't get the job. That's what I want to say. That's all I want to tell you about that.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Councilman Rojas, did you have-
Yes, Mr. Mayor. You know, my comment in addressing that, I'm not an expert, and I don't know the day-to-day specifics on the roads. You know, that's basically their job. But the questions that were discussed today were discussed a year ago. And how they do their day-to-day operations on getting those roads the way they should, it's up to them. However, if a year goes by, if 2 years go by, and the roads aren't the same or worse, then we have a problem with that.
And you sure do. You want to see progress. And you should see progress.
That is correct, and especially with what's coming up, which is the budget. We want to be in a supportive role for you. We want to help you. That's our job. But we are on time, and that's the point I think that Councilman Lucero was making here, in saying, hey, if we wouldn't have brought that up, was that going to be brought up to us, and when?
I believe it's been in the process now for at least a couple of months that myself, I've been, and I know you've received the calls, especially since Mr. Kissinger come back. We put a lot of pressure on you and Mr. Kissinger to be in contact with you, Mr. Martinez. And you've been telling us these problems that have been going on, but they need to be addressed. And I think this is the right place, because there's a lot more to it than with just the information that goes from one.
Well,
call
and
to
Mr.
another.
Mayor, this is the only place for us, because Mr. Barcelona doesn't want me in his office every day. And first of all, I don't have time to be doing that. And that's not our job, to be going over there and bothering you. You have enough things to do as well as anybody else. This is the only place that we can discuss this and make ourselves heard.
And again, we're at this point, and I think since we're discussing it, we're going to have to. I think we're going to have to come back next month and place it back on the agenda, because I don't think all the answers are here tonight. And you were mentioning that you were going to weigh things out, call and get, how much it is to buy the equipment, how much it is. We need also answers on, like Mr. Harvey said, are we going to have this equipment as maintenance? Are we going to be using it? Does it build up the base at all to redo, or just, again, it causes problems on some roads more than others?
It's not made to, it's not a repair. It's not a repair, it's maintenance. Like you put a driveway in at your house, Mayor, okay? We go in there, we grade it, we compact it, we put 4 inches of base, we compact it, we put the asphalt in, and you got a beautiful driveway. If you don't seal coat that, or sand seal it, is even better, because it has sand, it has aggregate in it, it builds a better surface. If you take care of that, and you do it every 3 years or 4 years, the sand seal, that driveway is going to be there for 35 years. And you're going to get your money out of it. Every time you sand seal it, it looks like brand new. It's beautiful. If you don't do anything to it, the UV from the sun eats up the oil. When it rains, it washes the sand out from around the rock. Pretty soon the rocks are sticking up, and now the rocks are rolling off. And in 10 years, your driveway is gone. So you've got to have money for maintenance. You've got to have money for repair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Councilman Barona.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to address my comments to the city manager. As you're looking at this chip sealing, or like where I live, you can't chip seal anymore. I hope at the same time that you're looking at the infrastructure underneath the paving though too. Because I noticed in the newspaper that we have a lot of water leaks and this, and I know the infrastructure is old, but before we start doing all of this, we need to start looking at investing in the infrastructure that's underneath there, and not continue to let it go. That's all I'd like to say. Consider that, please, because I don't want to put in all this other stuff and then find out that we got to go in and rip it up, because that makes us even look worse. We're going to rip up something or just coat it over. Let's take care of what's underneath it first to make sure it's good for another 50, 60 years.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add on, Mr. Wilson? You will be looking into those?
Yeah, I will.
And give us another more detailed report as far everything that was questioned tonight, and fill it in. I think Mr. Maldonado, you have a question?
Yeah. Basically, Mr. Alejandro, also like my partners here are, upset over it because we couldn't get it together. What do you think the main sources were? We knew what we would need. Could we have purchased it through the county that they have maybe a higher volume? and use it, would that have been,
That has been part of the process that we try to follow to coordinate and work together. It seems to be that is more complicated than just what we said that could be that, okay, let's get together and let's order the oil. And we have process that they have to follow, that we have to follow, and the coordination sometimes is difficult. I think that probably there's ways to do it. It's just we haven't found a way to make
we're
that
city
easy.
of Nogales, but we still participate in being part of the county of Santa
Yes.
Cruz.
Yeah, we're.
You know, basically, if that is an option that we have, you know, unfortunately at this moment, the getting together and coordinating scheduling and everything didn't work because the process of purchasing, you know, maybe, you know, down the road, can we do better scheduling, better communication with them, identify, you know, the usage where they're going to be using the machine or with the weekend, and looking at a long-term plan, not just, you know, in 3 months, you know, let's go down the road and see, you know, because that's a cheaper option for us, correct? And that's a better process of paving than what we're doing right now.
It's maintenance, yeah.
And then this machine, basically, you know, we would need to see the percentage of where we're going to maintain it and where we can maintain it. We're going to say, well, the city of Nogales only has 10%, 15% of the streets where you could utilize it, then it's really not cost effective.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we have never really thought on buying the machine. We're thinking on leasing or renting that machine to do some of the streets because those machines are really expensive. And like Mr. Harvey said, you really have to be using that on a daily basis to pay back the investment that you have to make in that piece of equipment.
When you say really expensive, what are we talking about?
Well, $1 million or maybe
$1
more.
million for one of those machines? That is expensive.
Yeah, it is.
But even so, just to be a little more clear, to make sure that I think some of the information I want to see is that you give us a breakdown on the roads, how many miles of road can actually benefit from this type of maintenance, and also comparison with the ones that it won't do any good to put that type of maintenance because they need to be replaced.
We already started that work and we're classifying the streets in which ones we can apply this process. We're in consultation with the vendors and the suppliers because, like I said, this is not a magic tool that we could use to say everything is going to be with this machine. We have to really classify the streets and say, okay, this is worth the money to apply it. Like Mr. Harvey said, Walnut has been 4 or 5 years that we paved that street. Well, we need to go back there and do maintenance in that street to extend that life of that so we don't have to replace that in another 5 years because that was a big expense. So those are the kind of streets that we really would like to continue. Morley, Western, Hohokam, Walnut, all those streets that they were paved in the last 5 years.
Potrero, Blanchard, Frederick, I mean,
There's
a lot of roads, a lot of streets.
All of those that we replaced in the last few years, we need to keep up with them so we don't lose them.
Give us that that information. We're going to put it back next month, and we want to have more detailed information. That way, at the same time, find out the cost of having the ones that are going to need replaced, which ones are the more, which streets and roads are in more dire need of being replaced, and I guess the maintenance is just something that could be done within the same year. If you have something, find out what the leaves are, because apparently if you lease it for a month, you'd be able to do the whole city, the ones, the roads that apply to it.
Yes.
So let us know. If
I will.
it's 2 weeks, maybe in a 2-week lease, you could do most in 1 year, and then the next year you could finish up the rest. Give us some ideas, some options.
Well,
Thank you, though. We're sorry as a council, we're a little hard
That's
on
okay.
you, but I hope you
I
do
understand.
know that we'd like, we represent the community, and, we have to put the pressure on someone the same way we get pressure on.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, leaving that item for the time being, we'll go to B, and that's discussion and possible action on repairing concrete walls, slabs in Nogales Wash. Councilman Lucero, Councilman Barona.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I put this on the agenda because I know Dr. Barona attended a flood control district meeting in which city staff requested funding from the flood control district to fix some concrete slabs, and I just wanted an update on where we're at with the repair work. So if the manager would like to address it, that would be fine.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman Lucero, I asked Juan to address this issue on what the county is doing.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm glad to tell you that I invited Mr. Harvey to be here. He will be the contractor working in the West Wash. We had to coordinate with Union Pacific because, as you know, the Nogales Wash is within their property. And there is an agreement from 1930, I guess, that every time that we need to do something there, we need to coordinate with Union Pacific. So we did so. Mr. Harvey had to buy 2 additional insurances that were not part of the original cost. But anyway, I presented that additional cost to the Board of Supervisors this morning. They will pay for that additional cost as well. So right now, we are in the process of Mr. Harvey submitting all the documentation to Union Pacific, and the plan is to start and do this before the monsoon starts. So Mr. Harvey is ready to start as soon as Union Pacific issue the notice to proceed. One of the issues, one of the good things about the negotiation with Union Pacific is that as part of the requirements from the Arizona Corporation Commission, they need to have a flagman present all the time during the construction. So they charge for that, and they will skip that cost. Union Pacific will absorb that cost, so which represent about $2,000 per day during the duration of the project. So estimating about 2-3 weeks will be about $30,000 that Union Pacific will have. In interchange for that, they said, okay, can you help us with 2 crossings? About just paving a little trench with about 2 feet on each side of the Union Pacific tracks at the time that they change the railroad ties. So it's a minor work, we can do it easily. So we suggest, so that's part of the negotiation with them. They weren't able to avoid the insurance because as well as another requirement from Arizona Corporation Commission. There are 2 types of insurance. I don't understand very well why 2 types of insurances. One is for general liability.
General liability with the 8 to 10 million.
Okay.
And the other one is right of entry.
So one of the good things about one of the insurances is that Mr. Harvey now has an on-call contractor services with the county, and Mr. Harvey every year he goes there and then remove the trees behind the walls. So now with this insurance he will be able to do so. So it's for 6 months?
Yes.
6 months. So it's part of the additional job. You will be, after replacing this slab, you will be cutting the trees or something.
Yes.
So what else? So ask me a question.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, the original request did not include the cost for these additional items. So once we had those costs, you went back to the county and they approved it. So we're good to go then. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Guerra, for the report. And we're coming down to C, discussion, possible action on mayor's proposal submitted to the Border Environmental Cooperation Commission. Councilman Lucero and Barona, I guess I'm the one that's actually supposed to be giving the report, so.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just to put it in the proper context, when we were back in Washington a month or so ago for the National League Conference, when we were doing our meetings with each of the congressional delegation members, I believe it was myself, Councilman Maldonado, and was it Councilman Ross?
Yes.
I can't remember. They were all stacked together. Anyhow, we were there basically to lobby in support of the legislation that had just been introduced, I believe, by Congresswoman McSally, and we were addressing that with Council or with Congressman Grijalva, and the letter that was submitted to Beck was presented to the congressman, and he was kind of bewildered because he was working on getting this legislation passed, and he kind of expressed that it was probably not a good idea, but it was our decision, and then really didn't say too much about it. And I was kind of caught off guard too, because I didn't really know what the proposal included. So that's why I've asked this to be brought before us, so we know what so we can at least have a unified plan when we're out working our congressional delegation and others, so we're all on the same page.
Right. And what it is, Council, it's that we're headed in one direction with the legislation, and again, we started that legislation, started last year, it faltered, and they're continuing, and they kind of fine-tune the language on it. More, it's not so much more for in our favor in a certain way. It's in our favor that it's maybe hopefully more possible for it to pass. It took some of the money thing out of it from the original legislation, where we could recoup some of our past costs. But at the same time, we can't sit around and wait for legislation. They've been putting pressure on the IOI as far as the rehabilitation of it. The city of Nogales doesn't have that money. And so, again, you have, I guess, the people here, Mr. Lai, that represents, the Water Boundary Commission there, and they want to know when Nogales is going to come up with their part as far as to start the rehabilitation process. So we need grants. We need support. We need. It's going to have to get done. If it's through a grant and if we get that money, it's not going to cost the city, but it's going to be provided an outside source. Then at least the work will get done. And if down the road legislation passes and we don't have that responsibility or maintenance of it anymore, well, that's fine. We don't have to worry about future issues. You all see where I'm coming from. But we have a problem that needs to be attended to. And instead of just sitting here and waiting, we went down to Texas. Mr. Machado pretty much flew us at his, again, my aide, Dr. Felix and myself, and we went and approached the offices of BEC and explained the situation to them. And since then, they visited us twice here in Nogales, and they're kind of helping us through the process of finding funding for that. It's a process. It also takes time, but at least they're being proactive about it. Hopefully, we might be able to get something, if not by the end of the year, by next spring. And let's see who gets home first, whether it was legislation or our efforts. But we're working right now. I don't think we're interrupting the legislation at all. It's not something that really goes against it. I think I wasn't able to I guess, express I'll talk to Mr. Nogales if he has any questions about that, to clear up the air, just in case he has any concerns. But I guess at that time, I was leaving earlier. I wasn't able to stay that extra day. You guys went to his office to visit.
If you can I'm just a little confused here. We have, what role does the state of Arizona lawsuit play with this?
State of Arizona?
The lawsuit with the IOI.
No. You're talking about us here.
Yeah, but we have sued.
Well, that's I don't think I don't, is that, we can discuss that a little bit.
I just
Well,
want to
then I
I
would like for you to answer that, because I don't want to get into a legal.
Because there's all these
Problem
factors, and
here.
I'm confused. Well, what takes precedence here? We're running 3 attacks at one time.
Yes.
I think basically we're running different fronts at the same time and keeping our options open. If the legislation were to go through, then that would solve 99% of the problems. But if it doesn't go through, or it doesn't go through in the exact form that we have now, then we'll still be faced with the issue regarding the ownership of the line, and then what our percentage is in terms of rehabilitation of the line. Those are all open issues at this time. So even were we to get to the point where we can make an actual application for funds from NADBank or BEC, we wouldn't do that until we have established for sure what our share of that responsibility is, if any. So basically, it's just trying to be available to take advantage of whatever option we need to take at the time that we have to make a decision. And being careful, like the Councilman Lucero said, that to make sure that one option or addressing one option doesn't affect the other one. We have to make a coordinated effort.
Councilman Lucero?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Moreno, you were done?
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Lucero?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I would ask is that in the future, if you, to keep the options open, it would be nice to keep the rest of the council informed, so at least we'll all be on the same page. Not to say that we would disagree with you, but it would, I would much prefer to have been in the loop when we're meeting with other officials, as opposed to not knowing what was being discussed. So that's all I would ask, is if in the future there are opportunities, especially when it's a different pronged approach, that we're kept in the loop. That way we all have the ability to at least say positive things, as opposed to not saying anything. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Point taken, Councilman Lucero. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions? So pretty much, I think we're doing pretty good. We're headed in the right direction on it. I think if any of these options turns up in our favor, we're even going to be doing a lot better. So thank you for all the help you've been doing. I mean, everybody's been also doing their part since the beginning, and I thank you for all your efforts. Maybe at this point, it's not a break, but we can go to the executive session maybe and kind of change and we can come back, and that way it won't be so heavy with remains. We'll go through that, but we can take a few minute break. Anybody needs take a break.
Need a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, not for the break, but for executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, I call this regular session back to order of Mayor and City Council. We'll continue with item 8, liquor license. A, consideration and possible action of liquor license 2017-4, approval of recommendation of the issuance of liquor license for Ruben Valencia for Arizona Sonora Restaurant, or Azon Restaurant LLC, Rooster Wings and Sports Bar, 800 West Shell Road, Nogales, Arizona.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye to approve.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. B, consideration and possible action of liquor license 2017-5, approval of recommendation of the issuance of extension of premises patio permit for Sushi Terraza Bar, 349 West Mariposa Road, Nogales, Arizona.
So move.
Okay, we have a second there?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Genesion has come back to life.
Amen.
Welcome back to
Motion
life.
carried.
Oh, he's on a roll now.
He wants to go home and making all the motions now.
Let's just approve A, B, and C.
One motion.
One motion. Oh, number 9, item 9, orders. A, consideration and possible action of order 2017-05-021, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, approving a sub-grantee agreement with the Arizona Department of Homeland Security for a Stone Garden grant in the amount of $3,140 in reimbursable capital outlay equipment.
So
we have a
moved.
motion to approve.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. B, consideration and possible action of order 2017-05-022, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, approving a contract with Tucson Asphalt for double chip sealing on Mariposa Ranch Road and La Quinta Road. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right. Any discussion?
Here,
Yes,
question.
Councilman.
Now, are both these streets, or Mariposa Ranch Road and La Quinta Road, are they both city streets?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Genesion, yes, they are both city streets. La Quinta, I believe it's south of Border Patrol, is private. We are just doing the portion that is owned by the city.
Just the portion that belongs to the city?
Yes.
Which is what, like 100 yards or?
Alejandro, do you know the measurements?
Goes all the way to the beginning of
It's
the gate,
Go
right?
from the entrance to the border.
Yes.
The section that is city is from the entrance to the border patrol building. When you turn south, it's not city.
It's right. And Mariposa Ranch Road, how much of that are we doing?
Goes all the way down to the top to, the what? Yeah, Calle Plata, where the Suarez building is, right in that corner, that ends the city property.
Yeah, the rest of the Mariposa Ranch Road is not city property.
It's not.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just, one comment, just to let the people know, Carlos, can you just give us a little review on how we pick these streets and then on the contractor?
Alejandro can address some of that, but as far as choosing those streets, there was an issue that arose regarding a warehouse that was going in. They approached the city to address a road that is private, and we indicated to them we cannot pave that, but we can tip seal the portion that it does belong to the city. There's a facility that's closing down in Phoenix, and they're relocating their entire distribution center down in Nogales, and I think is it 50 jobs, John?
70.
49, 50 jobs that will be coming into the city. So
Will more be added down the road on that, or
Where
is that the total?
This is on La Quinta, or where?
on South La Quinta, off of South La Quinta, actually, not exactly on the road. North La Quinta.
What are they going to be doing? What are they doing there?
It's a distribution center for
Belden.
For what?
Belden.
They could have manufacturing plant, material process.
So we were approached and we indicated we can address the portion that is ours, but not the private land. As far as the selection of the contractor, Alejandro could probably discuss how Tucson Asphalt was selected. I believe it's through a JLC.
Yeah, the contract is through a JLC from the city of Tucson. We have used them before, and they're part of the group that they're selected by the city of Tucson. So we're piggyback on their contract that they have, and the prices are good prices, the same prices that Tucson has.
No, Alejandro, it's double chip seating. That's a heavy truck, produce and maquila truck operate roads. Is that going to be sufficient?
Yes,
Or
we
is it
checked the condition of the road. There's a couple places that we're gonna need to saw cut and patch, do a paving repair before the chip seal comes in. There are 3 locations that we already measured and did the studies what we need to fix, and the chip seal will extend the life of the asphalt that's there, and the subgrade, that's the support for the asphalt, is in good shape, so we shouldn't have any problem with that.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, Councilman Maldonado, we also contacted Border Patrol to see if they had the ability to chip in to help deal with this road, and their response was that they don't have any funds and they don't pay for this type of process.
Okay. Any more discussion on that?
That's it.
All those, let's go back then on, call for the question and go ahead and, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. C, consideration and possible action of order 2017-05-023, in order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, authorizing a partnership agreement between Mariposa Community Health Center and Nogales Fire and Medical Department for coordinated community care program in the amount of $8,800.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye to approve.
Aye.
Motion carried. D, consideration and possible action of order 2017-05-024, in order of the Council of the City of Nogales approving settlement of litigation with the City of Nogales. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Okay.
moved.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Mayor and council's report on current events. Got beautiful weather. I think the city's headed in the right direction. Thank you all for working so well.
Move to adjourn, Mayor.
Do I have a motion? Oh, wait, we got a city manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, keep it short and sweet. I gave you some of the highlights. The legislation, I've been in contact with Senator McCain's staffer. Just to give you an update, it's still in committees and in the Senate side. The senator is looking to see if he can find vehicle bill because they don't feel that it will be able to pass as a standalone bill on the Senate side. They do feel comfortable, though, that there's a better chance of it passing on the House side first. So it's still in play. There hasn't been any vocal opposition as of yet, but it hasn't actually been heard because they're dealing with other things. But it's still in committee. So I want to give you that update. Budget, Jeanette has emailed all of you to ask you when you're available so we can go over the budget now that we have the health insurance numbers. The EBT approved the rates on Thursday, so now we're able to come up with the final numbers. So if you all can respond to Jeanette on the emails and when you're available so we can sit down and start talking. We've got some preliminary numbers and want to talk to you all about any goals or projects that you want to see included. And last, the retreat and strategic plan. I'm awaiting a quote from a couple of consultants, and I'll be emailing all of you, letting you know what time frame we're looking at. I know everybody's schedule is different, so it's going to be like herding cats. So if you can respond to my email, let me know what days are good, what days are not. Probably, and I think according to council members Barona and Lucero, that it might not be until July that you guys might be available. So.
This is a Saturday.
Well, it's going to take more than one day. Yes.
Friday afternoon on Saturday. As long as I know about 2 weeks ahead of time, because I have to make things with the grandkids.
Well, as soon as I get the quote, I'll email all of you, and then if you can give me your, or maybe include calendars, and then you can fill in the blanks and let me know what days are good and what days are bad, and then we can try and piece it all together.
Okay.
That's it.
Last thing, before we adjourn, I think Councilman Maldonado just wants to give a few ideas on the current events that are going on, like the Fiesta Mayo.
Yeah, I know Saturday we're having the Fiesta Miles celebration downtown from noon, so on, and I even heard they were going to televise the fight there.
Yeah, I think they might be
they were
televising
they're
the
looking
fight
at
to Canelo and
Friday also, you know, let's go support the Nogales High Kid baseball team. They play at 6 against Thunderbird. You know, it's basically should be a good game. State semifinals, no, quarterfinals right now. They'll be at 6 at Memorial this Friday. I think boys tennis team won today, so they go to the final, to the Final Four.
then, did you have something to
Yeah, it's
So-
25th, right?
So yeah, this Friday from 5 to 8,
5 to 8.
they're honoring Teresa Leal at Premier Alta Museum, and they're going to give her family a plaque. And they
What
called
time?
me barely today
5
and
to
wanted
6.
to make sure
5
we were
to 8.
invited.
I
I sent
to
everybody an email on it.
Thank you for that. Anyone, yes, Councilman?
I'd just like to remind everybody, BFW partnering with the city of Nogales to have our Memorial Day services Monday, last Monday of the month. So Memorial Day, everybody's invited.
Invited to hear the cemetery in the morning at 10?
At 10, and then
after that,
the reception up here at the post.
food and refreshments.
Last Monday of the month, of this month.
Food and refreshments will be served.
Yeah,
Last Monday of this
last
month.
Monday of the month is Memorial Day.
Okay, so,
The 29th,
see, no further events or?
40 years. I never put it in my mind as the last Monday of the month.
Move to adjourn, Mayor.
First, okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned, thank you.